the people in just incredible euphoria, worshiping Obama. That's exactly what the establishment wants. They bring Bush in, they stage the terror attacks, they build him up as a god. He gets a 92% approval rating, highest in U.S. history since they've been doing polls in the last century for over 100 years. And then his approval rating goes down, all the torture, the secret arrest, the police state being geared up for the American people. He gets the blame for all that when it was just the New World Order agenda, continuing with him as a front man. And then in comes Obama. And if you notice during his speech, some of the key things he does is that he'll talk about, we're going to fix the economy, we're going to help you, we're going to bring change, we're going to bring brotherhood, we're going to feed the homeless. All sounds great. And then he says, we're going to track down the terrorists everywhere and keep you safe. We're going to smoke them out of their holes. Everybody's like, yeah! And then Obama leans back and smiles. He's like, I've got these people. All the stuff Bush did, suddenly the Democrats are like, well, maybe we need a draft. Well, maybe we need to stay in Iraq. Well, maybe we need to keep, the spying on the American people without warrants. All of that in place, all of that being expanded.
That we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy. And these methods, I think, are a real refinement on the older methods of terror, because they combine methods of terror with methods of acceptance. Imagine a euphoric which would make people thoroughly happy even in the most abominable circumstances. I mean, these things are possible.
Now with Obama, Bush tripled the size of government. Now Obama's saying he's going to expand it even more. He's saying change is even bigger government, bigger state, but the people coming in and these youth brigades and 18 to 24, and it's now on the White House website, forced service, but it's a domestic draft where you do stuff for the government domestically. That's 180 degrees from the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. So segueing into that, what do you think of the change, and it is change, more of the same, but of Barack Obama?
Well, I'm definitely apprehensive of a bigger government, no matter what. I mean, a bigger government to me sounds like more possibilities for problems, but a bigger government that's not this government, I mean, maybe what he's going to do will add to it in a positive way.
Well, I tell you, he's totally on the bank. I mean, he is the man of the bankers. He got the banker takeover bill, which then they bait and switch and didn't spend for what they said, and now they're saying the money's secret. I mean, I'm just telling you, Joe, and remember, and I know you're a smart guy, the day of 9/11, it sounds condescending, but I mean, really, I know you can grasp it, most people can't seem to. The day of 9/11, I came out and said it's an inside job, here's the evidence. You were on the air with me.
I remember.
But I mean, I don't just make things up. I've got just reams of evidence. Obama is probably going to end up being like Adolf Hitler. I mean, I'm saying if you think Bush was bad, prepare yourself.
Really? You really think that it's going to... I mean, but he seems to be so socially liberal, and it seems like he wants to close Guantanamo Bay, and he wants to...
But see, if you... Exactly.
Not
but
really?
ABC News admits they're going to open them up in the U.S. He's shutting that one down, paying lip service that he's against it, while opening more and leaving the ghost sites in Europe, the real camps open.
And what are these real camps in Europe? There's torture camps?
Yeah, they're in Romania, they're in Latin America, they are in Jordan, they're in Egypt, they're in Poland, they're in Czech Republic, and it is...
Now, but let me ask you this. If you think that the New World Order is in control of the world and then they manipulate the world's government, why do they need a Guantanamo Bay? Why do they need to torture some
Because they need... Well, why did the Catholic Church need to have inquisitors to torture people to say they'd committed these crimes or witchcraft? Because they had to legitimize the whole suppression thing they were doing. They torture you to get fake confessions. Here's an example. 3 weeks ago, they roll in, 6 defendants out of Guantanamo. They've been held between 7 and 5 years. They were picked up different times. And they go, they're about to plead guilty. And they walk them in, and no video's allowed, but the press is there. And they say, how do you plead? I've been tortured. Don't execute me. It's fake. But then that was barely in the news. But that was in the news. And so they're canceling these trials because they've got to take them back and torture them some more.
Well, this is also the first administration in a long time that used mercenaries, right?
Yes, and they're keeping all of that.
Blackwater is not only doing that overseas stuff, they're also involved in the war on drugs.
In California.
Yeah, they're going after medical marijuana dispensaries. It's incredible. I mean, there's
They confiscated guns in New Orleans.
It's spooky, you know? I mean, I don't understand politics enough to say that I believe that, you know, Barack Obama's going to make a change. But I think one thing that he's good for is the psyche of the country. Yeah. I think that what he represents to people is a new possibility. The fact that a guy who is a half-black guy from a single mom, like, can make it.
No, that's a positive thing. We're going to come back and talk about that.
Positive.
The problem is he's going to make everybody love their slavery as this agenda happens and make them feel good.
Maybe he infiltrated. Maybe he got into the system and he's gonna clean it up from the inside.
With Secretary of Defense.
It's a very, very important point, Alex, in terms of mass mind control. It's the principle of the target wanting it to be true. And in many ways, the worse it gets, the more people can be enticed into following someone who's telling them what they want to be true. I mean, if you take what happened in Nazi Germany and those other examples you gave, at each point, people don't want to face the fact of the situation they're in. So they will believe when someone tells them, no, it's not that. Just do it for this reason. They want that to be true, and that's the most powerful form of control. And you're absolutely right. What's happened with Barack Obama? See, this whole technique of problem, reaction, solution, we're now seeing in America, and indeed globally, because of Obama's global influence. I mean, I was in Africa recently, a few weeks ago. I mean, crikey, he's a god there. I guess you can understand why, but if they knew that the agenda they have for Africa, the people behind Obama, then that he would be anything but a god. But the point is that we're seeing a problem, reaction, solution presidential game here. They brought Bush in, the people that control Bush, the neocons, and what they've done for 8 years is create massive problems, financial problems, overseas war problems, military problems, problems of every kind.
And he was also arrogant and didn't care and lied and said, I don't read the newspaper. Exactly. A perfect psyop, what the Romans would do with a governor, give them an abusive governor, but then bring in a slicker governor who could engage in even more abuse, and the people would accept him as a savior.
Exactly. You know, one of the interesting things, between the mid-90s and about 2002, I did enormous amounts of research into mind control, individual and mass mind control. And one of the staggering things you came across when you talked to some of these individual victims of mind control was that they had I wouldn't say a love, but they had this enormous affection for their controllers who were abusing them on one level. It's a very strange psychological trait, but that's what we're seeing on a mass level. So Obama's come along with people in fear, in outrage, and anyone who's not Bush has got to be better. And he's come along with his smiling face, the smiling viper, and now he is going to, from January the 20th, be offering solutions to the problems that the Bush administration created.
You can't deny the truth. And as much as I appreciate just the fact that I know my elders and ancestors wished for this day. They wished for an African-American president. But then when you ask my people, but why do you want an African-American president? What do you think an African-American president is going to do different than any other ethnic group that becomes president? What do you think? We all become stumped at that point. You know, we all start talking about just this blind loyalty, which is what I'm pretty much concerned with, which is what my point is, this blind loyalty, or just because he's African-American, he's not to be scrutinized or to be linked really with that global agenda. So, you know, once we cheer him on, we respect, we're proud, we're this, we're that. We all talking about getting back to work and rolling our sleeves up. And we got work to do in America. But what work are you doing?
Exactly. Notice there's no specifics in what he says, but when you look at what he's really saying, a domestic 18 to 24 military boot camp to serve the government, and he says, I want a new world order, and all of his advisors are involved in eugenics. And then one of the first things he does is fund abortions and the whole UN agenda, which we know is euthanasia, and so much more in Africa, in China. I mean, that's the thing. A year ago when Obama said, I'm going to end the warrantless wiretapping, I'm going to get us out of the war, I went on there and said, okay, if he doesn't bait and switch, I like Barack Obama. But then automatically he started turning up, and again, he's well-spoken, he's charismatic, he isn't this little devilish creature, Bush, who's arrogant. I mean, he comes off really slick, but I mean, that's what's so scary, is that I know it's a giant New World Order psyop, because he says, everybody get behind me, I'll make it better, I'll fix it all. Meanwhile, the banker bailout is $8.5 trillion and growing by offshore banks, which we're going to have to pay back in taxes. It's the total New World Order takeover. I mean,